Antarctica had frequent fires that struck during the age of the dinosaurs 75 million years ago. This is what new evidence suggests. According to Eddie Gonzalez Jr., paleontologists from Brazil and Chile revealed important discovery about the past of this most inhospitable continent, Antarctica. It's today covered in snow, but in the past it had a lush forest. The location was not like it is today. Research led by Brazilian paleobotanist Dr. Jocelyn Monfroy, along with her collaborators or colleagues, proves that Antarctica was disturbed by frequent forest fires that were directly associated with active volcanic episodes during the end of the age of the dinosaurs 75 million years ago. We already have found that Antarctica has over 140 volcanoes, and they say that the western part of Antarctica is actually a caldera bigger than the Yellowstone supervolcano. The research was developed with paleontological samples collected on King George Island in the Shetland Islands archipelago, on the Antarctic Peninsula during scientific expeditions carried out by the Chilean Antarctic Institute, INACH, and the Brazilian Antarctic Program, ProAntar. The first evidence of forest fire occurred in Antarctica had already been proven by the same research in 2015 in a paper published in the journal Paleogeography and Paleoclimatology, Paleoecology, and it was entitled The First Report of a Camparian Paleo Wildfire in the West Antarctic Peninsula. And as we said, that's where the West Antarctic has, of course, even new volcanoes there. Now, this new evidence presented by the study developed by Dr. Jocelyn and her colleagues during her postdoctorate at the Chilean Antarctic Institute demonstrates that Antarctica was effectively on fire during the Cretaceous period, and the occurrence of forest fires was frequent. And these episodes of fires were associated with the active volcanism of the time. So the new work entitled Antarctic on Fire, Paleo Wildfire Events Associated with Volcanic Deposits in the Antarctic Peninsula during the late Cretaceous, which evidences this important discovery, was published recently in the journal Frontiers in Earth Science. And according to the authors of the study, global environmental changes are among the greatest changes and challenges for humanity to understand. In this sense, the construction of scenarios that facilitate the understanding of the environment and the evolution of the most diverse environments on the globe is of very great importance. And this construction goes beyond the current signs of disturbances in the environment, but it's necessary to pay attention to studies that represent a broader temporal scale. So, characterized and understanding past environments of the Earth, the paleo environments and their disturbing agents, such as fire here, are fundamental tools for the construction of scenarios and models to enable a better understanding of terrestrial dynamics and assist the conservation of current biota. The Antarctic continent, because it is considered the continent of extremes, is one of the environments that's increasingly arousing interest and research interest for a better understanding, and also to being the continent that presents the most unfavorable conditions for the development of terrestrial biodiversity today due to its hostile abiotic factors, the significant cold and wind intensity. It's also the continent that best preserves its environmental characteristics, being a true natural laboratory that brings together exceptional conditions for the development of basic and applied science research, which makes it especially interesting from a human perspective. Now, the continent, over time, despite currently being a large isolated landmass in the southern hemisphere, the Antarctic continent did not always occupy this area. Throughout geologic eras, it moved and it challenged and changes due to constant tectonic movements, occupying different positions on the globe. At one time, it was near the equator. Now, along the history of southern environments changing significantly, in deep time, they were dominated by a vast diversity of species that composed or inhabited large forests, which left their traces through the paleobotanic record preserved in different geological contexts in Antarctica, with emphasis on deposits from the Cretaceous period. Now, during the Cretaceous period, just as it occurs today, forest fires were very common, shaping elements in terrestrial environments. Besides being considered one of the most important environmental disturbances factors in different biomes, past vegetation fires are evidenced, among other ways, by the presence of fossilized charcoal originating by the carbonization process, which consists of the incomplete burning of plant fragments that are preserved in the geologic record. Different factors influence the occurrence frequently and intensity of natural fires in ecosystems, from seasonal climates, availability of plant material for the fuel, moisture, and forms and causes of ignition. Of course, in this case, it was the volcanic lava. Now, the implications. Through this research, it's known that southern environments during the Cretaceous period were also disturbed by the occurrence of forest fires much more frequently than previously thought, which consume vegetation partially or totally. The analysis of these fragments of carbonized plant fossils recovered in Cretaceous deposits in Antarctica, especially those recovered on King George Island, not only allowed the characterization of vegetation that was burned, mainly composed of the plant kingdom, as gymnosperms, it also allowed the diagnosis of elements involved in the ignition of the vegetation, so it enables the reconstruction of paleoenvironment scenario. That's easy to understand. The cause of the ignition, of course, the volcanic activity. The intense volcanism attested to in the Cretaceous, which comprised the large part of the rock layers in Antarctica, was also the driving force behind the forest fires that occurred in this same period. But contrary to what one might imagine, it was not the flows of molten lava from active volcanism that consumed the vegetation, but rather the contact of the vegetation with the heated ash clouds, pyroclastic clouds that is, that were expelled by the volcanoes, which were preserved in the geologic record through very fine volcanic sediments such as volcanic tuffs. These heated ash clouds reached the forests, causing the onset of natural vegetation fires. And it can be said that despite Antarctica being represented in modern times by its negative temperatures and 98% coverage of ice on its territory, throughout its geological history, its environments were once ablaze, attested to the plant fossils that demonstrate the occurrence of fires in vegetation. And the action of the fires in vegetation was frequent and shaped and disturbed the southern forests during the Cretaceous period, influencing the evolution and biodiversity of the globe. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.